Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here on my next Boruto anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 21, which is called Sasuke and Sarada. And overall, I gotta say, as like the third episode of this Gaiden arc, it was a pretty good adaptation and just overall a pretty good episode. Because obviously it had the important moment of Sarada, not meeting her father for the first time, but I suppose non-baby Sarada meeting him for the first time, as far as she can remember at least. And the scene that started off was, I think, really well done, that like she kind of is terrified when he obviously thinks that she's one of the Shin Uchihas, and she has to just kind of scream out "Daddy" for him to actually kind of finally realize that it's her. And it speaks to, I suppose, the kind of somewhat, sad, tragic nature of kind of just that family dynamic and the way it kind of is and kind of has to be, in that when it comes down to it, obviously you have Sarada, really emotionally kind of just say, this is my problem right now. Why aren't you at home with mom? Is she my real mom? What's going on here? What does this picture mean? Why do I look more like her than Sakura? All these questions, and then obviously for her to get like one of the first things that her father says to her is just, all that stuff you just said to me, it has nothing to do with you. It's like you understand completely why she is extremely upset by that, and why she's kind of like the second I saw you, I knew you were my father. But it doesn't obviously remove the fact that that was like a really poorly kind of timed thing to say, even though technically it is completely true that the reason he's not at home has nothing to do with her as such. That he is out there because he's the only one who can, as he says to Naruto later on in the episode, investigate the Otsutsuki threat, which is, one of the more serious and bigger issues kind of lingering over the world now, is that like there's one Kaguya and she was like the biggest threat to deal with. What do we do if there are more of these things coming? And especially with this being the setup for the Boruto movie, when that exact thing happens. And ultimately it is kind of time that was to some extent well spent, even though it's unfortunate that Sasuke had to be away for so long. And you get these moments of like Shizune talking to Sakura, and a little bit later on when Sakura and Sasuke talk, of just them realizing that it probably wasn't the best thing to just keep everything from Sarada. You get why they kind of did it to a degree, to time very carefully when they reveal Sasuke's past to her, because how would she react if they just came out right now and said, oh yeah, at one point your father was a complete enemy of the village, and like it was only Naruto nearly killing himself in a fight with Sasuke that like got him back, pretty much. How would she really react to that? Especially knowing that he attacked the other Kage and was a member of the Akatsuki at one point. You get why, just being really clear and open with it when Sasuke is a bit of a he's one of those characters where like he's kind of meant to be kept secret as well, because he has the Rinnegan and so on. His location is not really meant to be known by other villages, because even Shin Uchiha here is kind of like pretty much after his Rinnegan, Sharingan, for his plans, and that's the way a lot of the other villains would see Sasuke as well. So that's a kind of interesting dynamic of just like with Sasuke, that you kind of to some extent understand, and that you even have that Naruto Sasuke scene where they're talking, and Naruto says like when no one kind of, when you don't know, it hurts when like you don't know these type of things, and then Sasuke kind of counters with, but like if I were to tell, it would cause like unnecessary anxiety, and that like clear reference to like, I suppose, the key events in both of their pasts, of like Naruto kind of not being told about the nine-tailed fox and not knowing why he was kind of isolated by the village. That's why he has that perspective, and then Sasuke, I suppose to some degree being told all of this stuff about the Uchiha clan of what happened, and knowing the whole stuff from Itachi, is kind of why everything happened the way it did. So interesting perspective. Speaking of Sarada and her, I suppose, Sharingan, I thought it was interesting that this scene I don't think is at all in the manga. Shizune kind of gives a slightly different perspective on, and I suppose it's implied that Sakura said something about this to Shizune, hence Shizune's response, that, you know, it's kind of like, oh, how long have you known that she's had the Sharingan? Like, she's had it for that long. And the inference that she makes is that basically Sarada awoke her Sharingan kind of gradually over time a while back because of the loneliness to a degree of not having her father around, and it's only, I suppose, properly like shown itself here in this moment because of, you know, those emotions kind of, I suppose, coming back up on the kind of reverse side of things, finally meeting him. So I thought that was an interesting angle because, again, like, a lot of people are interpreting like Sarada's like eye powers and the development that they may have over the coming you know, episodes, and however the series progresses into, you know, obviously we expect Sarada at some point to get the Mangekyo Sharingan, because obviously if Boruto is being set up to have this like tattoo power and the Jogan eye power, he's going to be crazy powerful, so you kind of need Sarada to be somewhat on that level, and the Mangekyo, whatever unique power she gets from that, would be a way to kind of give her that. So clearly there's going to be moments in her history going forward where she awakens the other aspects of the Sharingan. She obviously only has one of the kind of Tomoe things, so she has to awaken the second and third one of them, and then the Mangekyo separately. So what exactly happens there? Are they going to be happy moments for her that do that? Or is it going to be, you know, tragic moments like most of the Uchiha awakening their Sharingan powers? So I thought that was an interesting one that I had a brief look through the manga, and I don't think it was in there, that scene. They had Shizune talk to Sakura, but it was kind of like a slightly different approach. So they are altering things a little bit in this arc so far. But yeah, the result is, you know, you get some interesting scenes of like Naruto kind of going over to comfort Sarada after she's upset because her father didn't say anything. I liked as well that Chocho was kind of there, and she wanted to go over and comfort Sarada, but didn't really know what to say. And so, you know, Naruto coming in and kind of just saying that, you know, if there's one thing you need to know about your father, it is that he is one of the finest shinobi out there. And when the fight breaks out, he kind of, in a way, positions himself in the battle so that she can see him be that good, and that Naruto takes up a complete defensive role within the fight, whereas Sasuke does all of the offensive fighting against, you know, the, you know, main Shin Uchiha and then his sons. And obviously, like, him as a villain, and he's not massively complex as a villain as we go through, but in terms of what he adds to, I suppose, the theme of this arc, it's the idea that here is someone who technically is a father figure to the other younger clones, or whatever they are, and he's just using them as, like, shields. He is saying that he's their father, but he doesn't act like it. Versus, I suppose, Sarada, who's having, like, these questions about, like, is my mom really my mom? And, you know, like, my father is this person, do I even, like, care about him? Yet she sees within this episode both of her parents show that they care about her and are willing to protect her, at the cost of, like, all this other stuff, in that obviously Sasuke blocks all these knives from attacking her, and that was meant to hugely contrast with what obviously Shin Uchiha did. Even though Sasuke comes across as like a very distant character who maybe isn't massively emotional, he still was willing to make that sacrifice for his daughter and show that he is her father. And then Sakura, I thought I suppose for Sarada it was a quite notable thing where, like, finally Sarada does know that her mother really misses Sasuke, so having her walk past Sasuke to kind of hug her, knowing that she's safe after this battle, was a big thing, because she knows that, like, you know, realistically, like, if she had imagined it before, Sakura and Sarada would have just had this reunion and then they would have went over to her. But just the fact that she immediately walked past him, you know, was a notable moment for sure. And she could see a little bit of the dynamic kind of beginning to develop between, you know, her mother and father, and that, like, oh, you know, this is their development. It hasn't, like, fully happened yet because it's interrupted, of course, but definitely some progress made. But obviously the key interruption being that she is nearly sucked away by the small little eye thing with the transportation power. and then her mother pushes her out of the way but is taken herself. So the setup here is obviously very similar to the Boruto movie, but on Sarada's side of things, in that it's in the Boruto movie, of course, what happens is that Naruto is captured, and with the help of Sasuke, Boruto obviously develops to the point where he goes after Naruto to try and save him. And here is obviously going to be the case of Sarada, who's having all these questions like, is Sakura my real mother? She's just saved me, and has now been captured. Sarada, with the help of her father, go after to save Sakura. So you can see what way they're trying to do this, and it's a kind of interesting dynamic for sure. But the overall, I think, core of this episode was quite well done, I think, and the cliffhanger here of just Sakura ending up right in the middle of enemy territory. Obviously, I don't think it's the biggest threat in that. Obviously, a lot of the discussion around this episode is going to be about the power level of Naruto and Sasuke, and how Shin Uchiha managed to kind of damage both of them in this fight, when realistically it should have been a complete one-sided battle, Naruto Sasuke defeating Shin Uchiha. I think that it's done well enough to where I don't feel it comes across as too big of a problem, because obviously Naruto takes up a complete defensive role. He, for most of the fight, isn't even attempting to strike Shin Uchiha. And so when he gets, stabbed by the kind of one surprise attack that Shin Uchiha has, revealing that he can actually, when he touches another person's weapon, he can actually then manipulate that even if he's nowhere near it. That being the one surprise thing that gets Naruto, maybe, he could have dodged it, but he's so focused on protecting, and given that Sasuke was right there within his Kurama protective kind of area, he in no way expected that damage to come in that way. So Naruto, I don't have too much of a problem with how he's kind of taken out in terms of full power out of the fight, but even then, he just pulls the sword out and is more or less healing himself, so it's just a minor bit of damage. And the joke he makes to Kurama makes it really seem like, oh, you would have dodged that minor attack if you were 100% battle ready, but you're a bit rusty here. They don't even make it seem like this was any sort of a huge damage that he took. Equally with Sasuke, at the time, obviously you can tell he feels pain getting hit with all those knives, but it's not so devastating to him that he's just out of action for now. Shin Uchiha's attack was a surprising thing that did damage to both Naruto and Sasuke, but it hasn't taken them anyway out of the fight. But what it did do was it allowed this moment for when maybe Shin Uchiha could have done more damage to Naruto and Sasuke, but Sakura comes in and just straight down to business, just one punch, and pretty much, really badly injures Shin Uchiha to the point where he's not going to be much of a factor in whatever Sakura gets up to in the next episode. So, I don't have the biggest problem with what happened here, because, yes, if Sarada and Chocho weren't around, I do think Naruto and Sasuke would have just completely destroyed Shin Uchiha, no problem. But I suppose a combination of the fact that they don't want to just kill him, that they do want to interrogate and find out who he is, how there are other Uchihas, and what exactly he is. Plus the fact that they have to protect the kids means that they're not going to go full out, because their powers could potentially hurt the kids if they didn't assume such a defensive tactic within the fight. So I don't have too big of a problem at all with what's presented here. Maybe, yes, Naruto and Sasuke do come across as a little underpowered, but with Sasuke having been presented as being already done a bit of dimensional searching, you sort of get why he is sort of maybe doesn't have access to the full extent of the Rinnegan and stuff like that, because he's using that to go between dimensions. But yeah, overall a very, very solid episode of Boruto. I'm interested to see obviously how many more episodes there are. I'd guess 2 or 3. I can't see them doing many more than that. Obviously, it looks like next week's going to be that kind of one kind of slightly frustrating part of the arc, where obviously it's just all about miscommunication. But I think overall this Guy Down arc does come to a close very nicely in terms of what it does for Sarada as a character. So I'm interested to see how they get to that point. But I'm impressed so far with the anime adaptation of this, and I'm obviously really excited for next week's episode. So, yeah, I think that's more or less everything I want to talk about in this week's episode. There was a lot of nice kind of little character moments, seeing Naruto and Sasuke talk in the past, seeing, of course, Sarada and Sasuke talk, for the first time. Sakura's involvement, of course, was really well done. And just, I suppose, seeing kind of Sarada primarily, but also Chocho's reaction to just all of Team 7 to some extent demonstrating how powerful they are right in front of them. That, like, they're on this, like, other level right now to, like, Boruto, Sarada, and everyone like that. And that's, that's the gap that they have to get to between the kids and where the adults are at this stage. Kind of like in original Naruto, the gap between, like, a Kakashi and a Naruto at the start of the series. But, yeah, that's my review for episode 21. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode, as well as what I had to say about the episode. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.